So yeah, Dragon Ball Z. What happened here? Let me go ahead and say I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. I got a set of Dragon Balls, got the Turtle School t-shirt to represent, and tried my hardest to launch Kamehameha Blast into the air. This series has been in my life since I first saw the Ocean dub when I was a young kid, but the older I got, the more I really looked at it. And while it's still overall a great series, I think we need to take off the rose-tinted glasses and admit this series has a fair share of faults. I feel there are some things we need to cover strictly for American audiences first, namely the characters from Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball didn't have a successful airing in the US until 2001 on Cartoon Network. Prior to this, it was only test marketed in select cities. Now keep in mind, Dragon Ball Z came out on Cartoon Network in the US in 1996, a full 5 years earlier than its prequel. So for Western audiences, we have no context for a lot of these characters. The three in particular that suffer the most, though, are Tien, Yamcha, and Chaozu. We don't really get to know any of the characters at all, as we're supposed to have already met them in Dragon Ball. We don't know anything about Tien and Goku's rivalry, we barely get any information on Yamcha's relationship with Bulma, and Chaozu, well, alright, no, Chaozu's pretty much the same. Another major character that suffers is Piccolo. When he shows up to help Goku fight Raditz, you get the notion they don't really like each other and he says something about wanting to rule the world, but there's no depth to anything he's saying if you don't know the events of Dragon Ball. Piccolo comes across simply as an anti-hero. It hurts the story as well because, again, you really don't know three of the characters when they start dying to the Saiyans. We know Krillin is something of the comedic relief, and we've gotten to know the Dragon Ball Z version of Piccolo through his training with Gohan, which is not the Dragon Ball version of Piccolo. Now, aside from three characters we really don't know or care about, the Saiyan Saga was a fine introduction. It set the stage for what we're in for. For the Japanese audience, it told them that Dragon Ball Z isn't a whimsical adventure of youth uncovering magical trinkets. This is going to be no-holds-barred action. But it's still action with a functional story. You see, in Piccolo's arrogance, he told the dying Raditz about the Dragon Balls they can use to wish Goku back to life. Raditz had open communication with his allies who are now en route to Earth for the Dragon Balls. Vegeta and Nappa arrive, and Earth's heroes are left to defend it until Goku gets back. Over the course of events, 4 of the heroes die, Goku saves the day, and the Dragon Balls are placed in a state of uselessness. This starts the next story arc happening on planet Namek, where there are Dragon Balls available to resurrect the dead heroes with. You notice how everything is making sense and you can follow one event leading into another? Because that's going to be important later. Once Krillin, Gohan, and Bulma reach Namek, things keep going from bad to worse. Vegeta's boss, Frieza, has found out about the Dragon Balls as well and their connection to the Namekians and is on the planet. Frieza has multiple soldiers who are all stronger than Vegeta and Nappa by a large margin. Not only that, but Vegeta also lands on Namek and starts searching for the Dragon Balls as well. The heroes are completely outclassed while the last bad guy and the Galactic Tyrant are doing a much better job of collecting the Dragon Balls at every turn. Things keep going from bad to worse. And that could be considered the theme of the Frieza saga. Anytime the heroes start to get a leg up, something else happens. When Vegeta starts killing Frieza's men, the Ginyus are called in. When Gohan finally gets a Dragon Ball, it gets stolen. Anytime the heroes get the advantage on Frieza, he keeps transforming and making himself stronger. Even Goku's ultimate attack at the time, the Spirit Bomb, isn't enough to beat this guy. It's like the heroes can't catch a break. But then it happens. When all hope seems lost. When Frieza begins picking off our heroes one by one. When Goku is finally pushed to the limit. He transforms into the Super Saiyan. In a moment that can be accurately described as epic, Goku becomes the most powerful warrior of good. The tide of the struggle has turned and Goku defeats the galactic evil known as Frieza. Everything about the series has led up to this moment and the payoff was as grand as you'd expect. This is the point where I'm really curious about the original ideas Toriyama had for the ending to Dragon Ball Z. He stated in interviews he wanted to end the series at Frieza but continued on from popular request. I always wondered how the series would have ended if it stayed done at Frieza. Would Goku have died? Would everyone have been brought back with the Dragon Balls? Instead, we get what is going to become the first of many crippling flaws to Goku's good name. The Cell Saga is where things begin to fall apart. Let's start with Frieza and Trunks. So in stories where a main character dies, normally for a greater good of some sort, it's generally a bad idea to bring them back to life, wouldn't you agree? You had all this emotion and meaning behind everything and it gets completely undone. Look at Final Fantasy X and the character Tidus. He dies. Technically, he was never really alive to begin with, but the story established he was serving a purpose. Bring about the end of a giant whale that was making life hell for everyone. Over the course of the game, we grow to like him, understand his plight, and see a real connection between him and Yuna. He comes to learn that he's going to die over the course of saving the world, but he doesn't mind doing it. He understands there are more important things, and for the sake of those he loves, he sees his mission through to the end. It's like Square was competent at one point or something. But then Final Fantasy X-2 happens and he comes back. All those things we felt in Final Fantasy X are instantly undone. The sacrifice is immediately null and voided, and it's like Tidus just went on vacation for a while. So what does all this have to do with Frieza? Well, just like a hero's revival can undo certain things, so can a villain's revival. Remember all that stuff I said about how Frieza's saga was such a perfect ending, but then having Frieza not only come back, but get defeated so easily by some other character makes him in the Namek saga seem so pointless. The first way it does this is by introducing another Super Saiyan. I don't want to rehash everything I said about Goku's transformation, but just rewind the video if you want to hear it again. Where was the gravitas to Trunks becoming Super Saiyan? Just to make the audience say, "Aw, snap, son!" Is Trunks the universal protector of all that is good? Did Trunks liberate an entire people from a tyrant's oppression? Did Trunks fight valiantly only to have those he cares about die before his very eyes? Well, okay, yes, I know he did, but we didn't see any of this for a while. And we won't know about it until, like, the end of the saga. So as of right now, Trunks is just some a-hole who does nothing but make all the strife on Namek seem unimportant and let the audience know we're just gonna get more Super Saiyans. Then we get to the time travel. Oh joy. The first time we see Trunks is when Frieza comes back and Trunks lays waste to him and the remnants of his operation. The next time we see him is 3 years later when the androids attack. In some ensuing dialogue, he says something about when he traveled time, he went into a splintered off past and that his present remained the same. He also says that for unknown reasons, 17 and 18 are stronger and there's a new android 16 that wasn't in his time. So what does this all mean? He isn't time traveling, he's alternate dimension traveling. So what would the point be of even going back to the alternate dimension? The answer we get is that Trunks wanted to see if the main Z fighters found a weakness he could exploit, or just bring Goku back to let him do the work. What I'm getting at is once Goku was back in the game and gave the idea of the hyperbolic time chamber, there was no reason for Trunks to stick around. Nothing he could possibly do in the main timeline would affect anything in his timeline. He had the means to save his world, why stick around? Just to see how Cell would end? To try and help? But Goku is back. And Goku is the guy Trunks was going to rely on as a last resort to save his time. No, the answer we're given is he wants to see a potential weakness in all the enemies. The Cell Saga is also unfortunately where we begin to see the breakdown of Goku's character as an inspiration to keep pushing your limits. By putting more Super Saiyans into the series, Toriyama unknowingly established a racial hierarchy. This is extremely evident in Cell, who mentions he is a perfect warrior as he can survive in space because of Frieza's cells, recover any injury because of Namekian cells, and go stronger with each injury thanks to Saiyan cells. You notice he never makes any mention of what the human cells he got from Krillin or Tien does for him. But anyway, Saiyans get two different types of transformation. One of them is an established, you're the best around form, and have the unique ability to fight anywhere, as King Kai says, and grow strong as the plot wants them to when they recover from wounds. So if, as Goku says to Vegeta, hard work can overcome all, why is it Tien or Krillin never managed to surpass or even keep up with Goku? I mean, they were more or less his equals in Dragon Ball. So why? Because Tien and Krillin don't have light switches they can flip to get 50 times stronger since their genetics suck. They can't come back and beat Zarbon or Jace just because they got beat once, and this goes against everything that made Goku special. I'm so sorry, Goku, but there needs to be a little asterisk anytime people watch your fight with Vegeta that says, this quote only applies to Saiyans. Ask yourself this: if you could be transported into the world of Dragon Ball and were given a choice of what race you wanted to be, which one would you choose? Something that can regenerate lost limbs, or something that has 4 different transformations and gets stronger by default every time you lose? Let's move on to Cell himself and the rest of the villains of this saga. Unfortunately, due to the popularity of Dragon Ball Z on Toonami before we really knew anything about Dragon Ball, there's again context missing here when our villains are the Red Ribbon Army. More of us in America watching this after school before anime really became popular don't know who these people are. Now, while that's unfortunate, Toriyama's choice of a villainous mastermind made a little sense. Dr. Gero is a character never before seen, and we're just supposed to accept he doesn't like Goku. What did Goku ever do to him? I mean, Goku disbanded the Red Ribbon Army, but that was like the second story arc of Dragon Ball. Those guys haven't been relevant for years. So who is this guy? Why do we care? And to make things worse, Gero was killed off pretty quick and we're left with 17, 18, and Cell. Now, they all wanted to kill Goku as per programming, which is fine, but what after that? Like, say Cell got his perfect form and killed Goku. What would be next for him? So we can advance the plot, Toriyama decides Cell wants to destroy everything. Why? What motivation did Cell have to want to murder countless lives? Okay, so Cell pretty much ate a bunch of people to get stronger and blew up some islands, but aside from that, there really wasn't anything that evil about him. He was fulfilling his programming is all he was doing by taking whatever means necessary to do so. He's basically a robot. But as things start to go sour for DBZ in the Cell Saga, there is one huge silver lining. Vegeta.
Vegeta's character arc in the Cell Saga is nothing short of beautiful. Think what we know of Vegeta up to the Cell Saga. He's the prideful prince of the Saiyans who cares nothing for others. He murdered Nappa, slaughtered a village of Namekians, and has in general been a very mean individual. But then he comes to Earth. He starts to let his guard down. And though we never saw entirely how it happened, he and Bulma begin a family. Trunks acts as a catalyst for Vegeta's transformation, as prior to Cell, Vegeta always trained alone from what we've seen. But in the hyperbolic time chamber, he allows Trunks in there with him. Granted, Vegeta more or less ignored him, but he still allowed an outsider in. And then the coup de grace, Trunks being killed by Cell. Finally, Vegeta has an outburst for another human being. From then on, as we see in the Buu Saga, he's a father to his son and accepts his place on Earth. In the span of this series, he's gone from homicidal villain to anti-hero to hero. Let's not forget the torch was also finally passed to Gohan. Gohan finally realizes his true potential that Goku always saw and symbolically takes over Goku's role as the ultimate good and protector of the innocent. This situation closely mirrors the events on Namek. The heroes are pushed to the edge, people are dying, the fate of many lives are at stake. And when all hope seems lost, the next level of Super Saiyan is revealed and achieved. Now, while the events that happen don't carry the same weight because they're essentially repeated, it's a fine way to send off Dragon Ball Z and put the story to rest. But then the Buu Saga happens. The Buu Saga is terrible for so many reasons. Before I get too far though, let me go over what's good about it. And don't worry, it won't take long. Gohan still lives up to being a great protector in some sense. Sure, he quits training for academics, but he becomes a superhero to keep up his father's legacy that was left to him. As I mentioned prior, getting to see Vegeta as a father to Trunks is a nice thing. Krillin finally finding a family is also a nice thing to see, as he's had zero luck thus far. We also get to see Gohan's relationship with Videl grow instead of simply being told about a relationship like the case with Vegeta and Krillin's marriages. See? Told you it wouldn't take too long. I'll begin with the villains this time around. So Babidi arrives on Earth looking to restore Majin Buu. Babidi wants to use Buu to subjugate the universe and in general fulfill the villain quota of the week. To accomplish his goal, he amounts to a cult of sorts to collect the needed energy to wake up Buu. Buu is a creation, or not? I have no clue anymore. When I first saw Dragon Ball Z, he was said to be a creation of Bibidi, but I guess that's been retconned to say Bibidi simply found him. Doesn't really matter in the end, I guess. Anyway, Buu is a thing that is introduced as a giant man-child. Goku probably put it best describing the Fat Buu as a misbehaving child who doesn't know any better. Once Fat Buu becomes Super Buu and Babidi is out of the way, he becomes a mess. I want someone to tell me, though, what was Buu after? Why did he want to destroy everything? There was no reason. It got worse when Super Buu became Kid Buu. Super Buu at least had some personality to him, but Kid Buu is just flat. No lines, nothing. It's a screaming monstrosity. You can't understand any thought process Kid Buu might have had because instead of a character, it's more of a plot device. Now, I know all characters in some way, shape, or form are a plot device, but in the case of Buu, it's like it's there solely to have Goku punch something. When you compare Buu to a character like Frieza or Vegeta, what I've said becomes more apparent. Sure, Toriyama wanted to have really cool fight scenes, but at least Frieza was looking for immortality. He had a goal. When Frieza lost the Dragon Balls, he was enraged and wanted to get some revenge. He acts like a character with sentient thought. Kid Buu just screams. Alright, with the bad guys out of the way, what about the new heroes? Specifically the ones that make everyone in a collective choir say, "Where the fuck were you guys?" But seriously though, we meet the Supreme Kai who is like god of everything, right? He has like a responsibility for the well-being of the universe or something, right? Kinda? Sorta? So where was he when Frieza was running around taking planets? Majin Buu was a threat because he was running around blowing up planets. Didn't Frieza do that in a leisurely afternoon? Buu was committing mass genocide and the Kais did something about it, but didn't Frieza cause whether directly or indirectly the same atrocities? If someone can give me a legit answer to this, please, 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 by all means, leave it in the comments. Goten and Trunks are completely unnecessary and enrage me close to the point of a heart attack. Trunks kicked off the events of the Cell Saga. That's fine. In order to have future Trunks, we had to have a baby Trunks somewhere, and so it could be a Super Saiyan, it had to be Vegeta's kid. Alright, whatever. Why does Goten have to exist, though? Furthermore, why do they have to be, for no explicable reason, strong enough to fight the latest bad guy who is stronger than the last bad guy and they're only 5? Think of it like this. Gohan was the same age as Goten when the Saiyan Saga happened. From the time Raditz was killed until Cell was killed, his life was combat and strife. So Goten and Trunks are just by default better than all that training Gohan has been through?
That doesn't make any sense. But folks, now we come to the final nail in the coffin. The paramount reason I despise the Buu saga. Goku is just now and forever not the good role model he used to be. Now, I've already explained how the genetic hierarchy completely destroying Goku's preaching hard work and overcoming all. But in the Buu saga, it just completely dies. So Goku decides to come back to Earth after being gone for 5 years. He apparently has enough clout in the afterlife to come back to life for a day of vacation time. He doesn't come back to see Gohan succeed academically. He doesn't come back to be with his newborn son at all. He comes back to have fun fighting in a tournament. That's selfish. Oh, and how about Goku telling Piccolo he could have possibly defeated Majin Buu when they fought? Now go watch the episode called Fusion Dance and scroll about 12 minutes in. He basically tells Piccolo he let Buu go because he isn't part of the living world anymore and therefore his 5-year-old son should do something about it. Now, at this point, Vegeta's dead. He believes his firstborn son to be dead. We know the non-Saiyans ain't gonna do shit. And Buu is on a merry killing spree across Earth. So Goku, in all his heroism, decides to let the bad guy go so a pair of kindergartners can feel relevant in the world. Look, if this is an issue with translation, fair enough. I just hate American Goku then. But seriously, would you look up to the guy who had a chance to save the world and didn't because he wanted to give his child fresh out of diaper something to do? No, you'd say he was fucking insane. Sure, there's more to say if I wanted to bring up the various movies and games, but at the end of the day, Dragon Ball Z began sacrificing characters and story for people punching each other in the face. There is more you can go into, sure enough, but in the end, the series devolved into brainless action. Earlier adventures on Earth and Namek had me expecting more than that. I liked thinking of Goku as a hero, not a jackass who only seeks out thrills. I liked looking forward to new Dragon Ball Z things with hopes and fun and exciting adventure awaiting me. Now, anything that gets announced, I just can't get into it. And I think it's because I have this impression in my head it's just going to be another mind-numbing action movie screaming at me for an hour and a half. But regardless, I'm still going to give each new thing starring Goku and the rest of the Z Fighters a chance.